So, hello and welcome to what will be a trial, maybe continuing into more, and then we'll look back on this day and cry at our previousness. Yeah, I'm going to go with that.
We're going to go about 20 seconds before we got something wrong.
yeah, 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Was it even 20 seconds? I wasn't even checking. But
I'm being generous. Don't worry about it.
I believe the saying is the second time's always better than the first.
Well, I believe the saying is third time's the charm. So should we just do it another time just for fun? But yes, so either the first test podcast. See, I've done it now. The first test podcast, or potentially the start to a very fruitful bit of
Fun.
Side gig. We're not really intending to make money, but just chat. And I'll give a little bit of a background about that in a second. The podcast name is Roleplay Life, and it will encompass gaming just pretty much in general. We're talking everything from board and trading cards to video, PC games, everything in between as well. And they could be varied topics just slightly relating to them, or we could just be venting our frustrations at particular game developers, not releasing something in the UK as an example. Random example.
Yeah, funny how you mentioned that. It could be coming up later.
It could indeed.
I actually enjoyed the name of this test cast of Roleplay Life. I think I mentioned it to John briefly before we decided we were going to do this. And when I was moving into the house that I'm in, I joked to my sister I was going to wear a Link-style hat and do short videos of moving into my house and refer to it as my Roleplay Life.
Yeah.
And it's just weird when John went, "How about this name?" And I was like, very much yes.
It's a dual meaning. Dual meanings are very popular at the moment, so that's why I went with
it. How dare you suggest a double entendre?
I know, in today's modern society.
It's not like me at all.
No,
not
never.
like any of us.
Especially on this call. And that does lead very nicely, thanks for that segue, into who we are. So we'll each go and introduce ourselves in a second. I just want to give a little bit of background. Basically, we all play Dungeons & Dragons together. It is our regular weekly occurrence. But we also found that at the start of Dungeons & Dragons, and tends to be towards the end as well, we'd spend a lot of time talking about non-Dungeons & Dragons related stuff. Just a bit.
In no way to the annoyance of the DM at all.
In no way whatsoever.
No.
And so the idea we had was a way to vent, a way to discuss things here and not take up valuable time from the game. It wasn't...
I spent ages putting those plot lines together.
Just for us to spend an hour talking about what is going on in the world and various games coming out. So my name is Dan Glickman. I stream on Twitch. I stream a variety of games, and I currently live in Warrington in England. And I like everything. Video games, though I don't own a console, so I'm talking PCs. Dungeons & Dragons I like a lot, as well as a lot of the traditional and new board games. So going round, Gareth is next on the list.
Hi, I'm Gareth Maudsley. I live in Lancaster. My affiliations to both Dan, who's just introduced me, as I used to play Yu-Gi-Oh! With my nephew, and he was the luckiest man ever. And John, who we'll talk about in a moment, I went to school with. Me and John used to play a lot of fighting games as teenagers. We played some six-a-side football to a very poor standard. We basically had a mutual love of very nerdy things for a long time. Dan, I've known through my work when I've worked up at the university. And as I joked, I am the DM for this D&D party, or parties as it is currently.
Great. My name is John Woodhouse. I live in Manchester, and I am into, for those of you watching video, I'm into anime. I like anime. I like video games. I like D&D. I am the newcomer to the D&D group. As for tabletop stuff, I don't know very much at all. I will talk when I know something, and maybe put some questions forward that people who don't know things might want to ask themselves too, just for that kind of
that was my role.
The everyman sort of questions being brought forward. But I play video games ever since I was 3 years old on the old BBC Micro, for anyone who remembers what that is. Yeah, that's about it.
With you saying the BBC Micro, what My first gaming experience was I'd have been about 6 when my sister went to high school, and we had an Acorn Electron. But she used to have to borrow from school a BBC drive to be able to put floppy disks into it, and school you had to like write a note and rent them.
Well, that was the funny thing about the Electron. You could actually use a floppy drive, but you could also use a tape deck as well, to run games from it.
Cassette video games were like my childhood.
Yeah, me too.
See, I don't want to show my age here, but Sega Mega Drive was my first. I should probably word it differently than that, but Sega Mega Drive was the first video game.
What did you do to that poor thing?
Yeah, well, I blew in it a lot. I blew the cartridges a lot. That was the old thing, wasn't it? But Sonic was my first ever game played, and that started everything for me, basically. I used to run after those golden rings and try and do loop-de-loops and like speed and go into little blue ball over and over again. And again, I've made several double entendres in that opening line alone.
I was going to say that's enough about your internet search history, Dan.
yeah. Trying to find the golden rings and do speed. It's just, this is the problem,
just
guys.
This is where we get stuck on D&D. We never seem to get past double entendres.
Yeah.
We applaud each other's on double entendres and then just go, "Oh, we're playing, aren't we? Sorry about that. Sorry, Gareth."
Yeah, it's usually sorry, Gareth. Yeah, Gareth's like the father that doesn't want to be the father of us because we're all grown adults, basically.
Yeah. I'm an unintentional surrogate.
Yes.
Both in game and out of game sometimes.
Occasionally.
And for today's podcast, the initial podcast, we've got 3 main topics. We'll be talking about them in no particular order, I don't think. I've just written them down in this way. We're going to talk about Heroquest. This is something that has... we'll get onto it in a second. This is something I alluded to right at the start about how, again, the UK will be disadvantaged in a board game release. Can you believe it?
Shocking, really.
No, I know.
Are we actually going to be creating board game Brexit right now?
Well, I mean, it's not just Brexit either. The UK isn't getting it, but neither's Europe. It's just the US. We'll go into that a little bit later. That's a Hasbro thing.
Is it one of? Who used to, was it? Has it always been Hasbro for Heroquest?
It was MB Games.
We might as well start this now. We might as well start it now.
Sure, let's discuss it.
Let's Heroquest. So in the UK, actually, so you are correctly. So who were the original developers and releases of this?
I'm pretty sure it was a guy who designed it for MB Games. He was a researcher. I cannot remember his name exactly, but
I will tell you. Hold on.
By the power of Google, I'm sure we'll find out.
Yes.
By the power of Google, I already have this written somewhere. Milton Bradley.
Yeah, MB Games. But there was a particular guy who worked on it. Who's actually worked on the re-release, and he's done like a set of maps and missions for the new release.
That's one of the optional extras, isn't it? I saw that.
Yeah, I was very tempted to send him a tweet to say, "What the hell are you doing, you backstabber? You're betraying your country."
So let's have a look. Designer Stephen Baker.
Yeah.
And then we've got a couple of artists on there: Gary Chalk, Max Dunbar, Les Edwards. This is the original team, and it's worth pointing out because we'll get into the updated team and the methodology behind what they're doing with that very shortly.
Do you want to tell them, basically lay out why we're upset first?
Yes. So, Heroquest was an adventure game, designed to be very quick and short in relation to a lot of other tabletop games. That was released in the late 80s, early 90s?
89, I think.
So I was going to say it's like the late 80s, but it was the way I always describe HeroQuest was because you could play it like a campaign, so it was like D&D, the board game.
Yeah.
So you actually had like pre-written quests, and you could start and you could like increase your inventory. I can't remember if there was like stat leveling or not, but I'm sure you could roll a character sheet or something.
There is an advanced HeroQuest, but I don't think there is an original HeroQuest.
Yeah, no, it was just designed to be a pick up and play adventure basically for lots of pre-gen characters, and it was 1989. You are correct.
Yeah.
And this game was a really great follow-on to Dungeons and Dragons. That's what it was designed as. The Gygax Dungeons and Dragons
phenomenon. Yeah.
Phenomenon. It was designed to roll off that. And
make it more like beginner friendly as well. It's more of a gateway for people to get into.
That, yeah. And very recently, Heroquest made an announcement that something was coming, and myself, John, and Gareth, we all got very excited.
They gave a timer. There was a timer for a link for a timer, and no real instructions on what it was that was going to be announced. Just that there was this event that was going to be unveiled.
I enjoy that Dan says like we were all excited for it. If I remember John's message correctly, it was like, "There's a timer. Prepare for disappointment."
Yeah. Okay. Then yes, I should clarify. John is the pessimist of the group straight away.
Call me a cynic, but was I right?
You were indeed, because Hasbro, who are taking the ownership of the publication
license
of the game and the license, they've created. This is a multi-million-pound gaming company, by the way. We should preface that for that who don't know about Hasbro. Google them. They own a lot of big brands.
Yeah. Well, the Transformers franchise, D&D, Wizards of the Coast. They bought Wizards of the Coast basically. So like Magic the Gathering goes to Hasbro. Hasbro, when they did their GameCon about 3 years ago, they actually in tie-in with the Transformers animated series they were doing for Japan, which I think is the trilogy that's coming through now onto Netflix. So in D&D, not D&D, Magic the Gathering, there's a famous set of cards called the Swords. There's like the Swords of Feast and Famine stuff, and there's one called the Sword of Transformation, and it gives any D&D character the ability to become a Transformer. And these were like fun cards from a convention, but there was also, because I think was it when Ixalan was released. Ixalan was a world where there was pirates, dinosaurs, and vampires who were also like the conquistadors. So it's very much like the Spanish raiding Mesoamerica, but with dinosaurs.
Yeah. So what you're saying is they've got a few quid to spare.
Yeah, they've got 1 or 2 quid to spend, and Hasbro decided, you know what? How do we milk it? I don't know. Let's crowdfund using
that's popular.
Our own individual crowdfunding software called Hasbro Pulse. They're not even going to Kickstarter or anything like that. Let's crowdfund it. But the caveat is it's only in the US.
And certain areas of Canada.
Is it US and Canada?
Certain areas in Canada, not Quebec, apparently.
Oh, not Quebec. Quebecois, once again,
this is a very standard Hasbro procedure, again, with the Wizards of the Coast department, because they've taken in Magic the Gathering to do a thing called Secret Lair, which are like special art editions of like really popular and desirable cards. And to do that, you have to go through Hasbro's own website. And the first time they did this thing, I can't remember what the product was. I think was the Mythic booster set or something it was called. The website kept crashing. Apparently the background of the website couldn't handle more than 15 customer orders at once. And it was rumors were it was designed purposely to keep people logging in and to create the hype and to create like the negative.
What, did they have adverts going up or something? Were they just after those clicks? That's what it was.
Basically. But the other thing that cracked me up is a lot of YouTube people, they were just like it was a whale product. For people who don't know what a whale product is, it is a product that's specifically designed for people who have more money than sense, and they'll buy whatever because they can, or they're really into something so much they will always invest. As Dan will attest from my years of Yu-Gi-Oh, I am life's natural budget player, so I will try and leverage the best strategy for the least amount of money, or sometimes the most annoying strategy for the least amount of money, because sometimes that's fun as well.
It is.
Yeah.
So as of recording, the Kickstarter or whatever it's called, the Pulse. Is there a terminology for that? The
sellout ship.
Sellout ship is currently at about $1.6 million at the moment. There are 2 tiers, one for $99, which gets you the game and nothing else, and then there's the it's got a particular term. It's is it the Mythic bundle.
There's Mythic and Hero. I don't know which way around they go. Probably Mythic.
It's Hero is the cheaper version, I think, and Mythic is the $150 or $149.99 for pledges, and they're at $1.6 million right now. So they've more than made their target of $1 million. There are certain goals that they're trying to reach. I think up to the value of about $2 million. They get you certain extras. If you're lucky enough to live in the US or know anybody that will be willing to ship out to you later on. They also mentioned that they're trying to get their shipment completed by the fall of 2021, so just over a little bit of 12 months' time, which means I don't think we're going to see anything for the next year. There's going to be no news out of them, no press releases to say, hey, I know you guys around the world, the place where this game was made, you might be interested in getting this. We've got you covered, brother. We're not going to be getting any of those kinds of things for the next year, at least. So it seems like a blunder, in my opinion, that they should have looked to either giving options for people who are overseas and are passionate people that have nostalgia for this and will be definitely looking for it. I mean, when this happened, when the event happened, I went onto Twitter and just did a hashtag Heroquest, and the number of people who were from just the UK saying, I can't believe you've done this. The number of people that did that was like in the tens, and not hundreds, in the tens on Twitter within the 5 minutes of the event happening. There's probably more than 10 now, Gareth. Thank you.
In a world
and I'm
of
the
7
cynic.
billion people, the tens
of people that were upset, though. There was a lot of people in that short period of time that were obviously very upset about it, vocal enough to actually put it onto Twitter, which isn't saying a whole lot, but hey.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that the point of Twitter? You just go on it to
complain,
have a little bit of an upset moment. But this is Hasbro practice, like through the Kickstarter. Again, going back to Magic Gathering with like the Mythic editions and the Secret Layers. The Secret Layers, like they did it a couple of times at the end of 2019, and it was like once they did like 2 at the end of the year, and there was 3 months gap, and then they did a New Year's edition, and then a Chinese New Year's edition, and a Valentine's edition, and an Easter edition.
I'm sensing a theme
and
here.
It got to the point that these limited edition items were every week, virtually. And there's people who now, they did one recently, and I can't quite remember what it was for. And someone went, this is great and all, but where's my secret layer from last November? And then
so
one of the things
they weren't
that
fulfilling all the promises of old.
Yeah. And there's loads of people. And one of the other issues, like with John saying about shipping and with Heroquest being US exclusive, they did, we're redoing this Commander set. Commander's a very popular Magic the Gathering format. And they went, we're going to re-release all these old decks that are super expensive because they're old. And people were like, this is amazing. And everyone queued up on this, the same terrible Hasbro website that I mentioned before. And they got there and they went, yeah, you can buy this, but only in the US. And then there were people. So one guy asked his friend, like, can you get me one and ship it, and then ship it to me? And he went, let me check the weight. And he said for the parcel weight and the item, it would have cost him almost as much as the set to ship. And I think the set was something like $150, $160. And because and then what was happening with it is people were buying it. So there was an inflated secondary market of like $400, $500 for. This is like old information, and I'm sure prices have settled down there. But this Heroquest thing just sounds like very much the same, the same problem in a different hat.
Yeah. The problem is that it's getting more traction because people our age are actually in like positions of power at this point, at this time of our lives, and can, make a bit of a fuss about it.
Okay.
All right, well, some of us that are here tonight can actually be in positions of authority to actually, make some fuss and actually bring a bit of a stink about the whole situation.
I believe it is long in the tooth, John.
Well, the funny thing is though that like, as excited as I was for this, and as pessimistic, the funny thing is that they've actually changed very little about it. If you actually go into what the release actually is, it's a lot of the same things.
Yep,
If you actually buy the more expensive thing, it comes with 2 packs, and they're exactly the same as the packs from the original.
Yep, they just had a minor rules update, and some of the art looks a little bit better on the figurines and things that you get. Is what I'm reading between the lines.
From what I understand from people who actually, do painting and sculpting and that kind of thing, the models aren't easy to paint, or they don't look that way. They look quite complicated.
Yeah.
And one of the benefits of the original was that, being a gateway game, the figures were quite easy to paint. So if you were interested in that sort of thing, it was easy to get into. Whereas people of this generation, the next generation that might be wanting to do this, won't be able to, or it'll be less likely that they'll be wanting to do that, just because they look quite intimidating. These new figures that they've brought out.
Interesting fact for you. So Hasbro are doing the figures this time. Do you know who did the figures originally?
No, I don't. Oh, it's Games
Workshop.
Yeah,
exactly, and they make their money out of making figures relatively easy to paint.
Not do a Heroquest supplement or something. Like, I remember as
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8,
like,
9, 10,
something
11.
like, there was one of the boxes that I remember trying to get hold of because I was trying to convert a high elf lord on a dragon, and I think it's called like the Silver Something Tower. And you got 4 wizard characters for this Games Workshop like D&D edition product, and it's actually it was I think the first time they did a full plastic dragon figure.
Yeah.
And I looked at it, and as a fledgling teenager, I was like, I think I could sculpt a saddle and put an elf lord figure that I like on it, and I'd be able to, like, pin the thing together to make it stable if I have to use a metal lord or something. But I may as well have been on a quest for gold dust or unicorn poo. It was.
I've seen those boxes go for like £100 now on eBay. The funny thing is that the original RRP for those boxes, the add-ons, it was like £5 each when they first came out.
I always remember this the Dragon's Tower, whatever it was, because the 4 mage figures that came in it, they gave away free on the cover of White Dwarf.
Yeah.
And the first one I got was a Chaos Sorcerer, which I don't know if John will remember it. It was poorly painted, and it became like the leader of my Warhammer Fantasy Chaos army that I had for however long we played Fantasy, and then I ended up playing 40k more with John and another friend of ours called Simon, and I started off like every newbie with Marines, and then I was like, this is boring, so I just moved to Chaos Marines because that was clearly a massive step and change.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
would you say it was fair to say though that like HeroQuest was one of the ways that you got into like your obsession with tabletop gaming?
I'm just trying to think because
it was for me. So
I remember, I'll tell you actually, the first tabletop game in that format that I bought was Space Crusade. Was the MB, which was basically HeroQuest in space, or the MB Games one.
Yeah.
Was. And it also had, I think me and John were on about it, the advert where the kids are playing it and it's like so 90s. And then the dreadnought burst through the wall.
Yeah, I've seen this exact advert. Yeah.
And like the advert didn't bother me, but I saw the figures on the table and I was on this like in this game, and I was like, they are amazing. I love this. They're great.
Yep.
But like a lot of my board games, like from being a kid, is I remember me and my sister used to play Cluedo, so much Cluedo when I was a kid. And then I just played like a lot of the old, like the proper old school games, like Ludo and stuff like that with my family, because I grew up as a child in the 80s to the 90s, and then I think Space Crusade was my lead-in to sort of this kind of event. And I just remember me and a couple of friends tried playing it, and then a kid up the street was like, "Oh, I've got Heroquest," and
Broadsword.
and me and 2 or 3 people were like, "Sure, we'll give it a go." And then my Friday nights from about the age of 9 to 11 were like playing Heroquest and probably playing it wrong, but
Having
we
fun.
had a good time.
It didn't matter. Yeah, exactly.
What
Didn't
about
matter
you,
at the
Dan?
time.
Because you're obviously a fetus compared to us, so...
Yes, yeah. So it's actually very similar. It wasn't the Heroquest though. It was the obvious successor from a Games Workshop perspective, which was Warhammer Fantasy Battles. I played that extensively from the ages of about 11 till about 14. I played it a lot, the Warhammer Fantasy Battles. I actually still have my army downstairs purely because it's in the presentation box, and I've just moved house, and not managed to, not thought to
Never
sell
unpack it.
But I've got a dwarf army and a high elf army in there. So
see, I'm terribly jealous of whoever managed to keep hold of their stuff, because my dad had all that stuff, and he's the reason I got into this stuff. He like would buy those games. He had quite a few of them, and he would play against me because nobody else in the house would. And he would make me cry. And he made me into a man. He never took it easy on me. He always made me cry. He would beat me into the ground and then go, "Do you want to play again?" And then I go,
yeah.
But the thing was, right, I left home and all that stuff was left in the attic, and he gave it away. And there were some very specific niche games that he got rid of that would probably be worth thousands now. But never mind. It's all gone.
I remember in high school buying off John. John's dad bought the new version of Space Hulk, or it's not the new version, but they redid Space Hulk, and they had like the really cool plastic Terminators, which were like the multi-part kit ones, opposed to the old versions, which were like just a one-piece.
Yeah, they were very scrunched up, weren't they?
Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, they're so cool!" And I was playing Space Marines at the time. I was like, "I'd love to get them instead," because it used to be metal figures for the Terminators.
Yep.
Like kids who play Games Workshop today will not understand why people of my age have like hernias, because you were swole if you played Games Workshop in the early to mid-90s.
Over your shoulder, that was it.
But or like you wanted a squad of Terminators, all the figures were made out of a lead base metal.
Yep.
Which was just known as white metal.
And if you had to take them anywhere, and you had like your Warhammer 40k 2,000 point army, and it was all metal, you were getting swole off that, just moving that stuff around.
Like, I remember Simon McMinnis once asking school if he could just leave his, because he used to play Imperial Guard, and he just asked if he could leave his stuff there for when we played after school, because he had so many tanks.
Yeah.
The funny thing was, though, he only lived like 5 minutes away from school. I lived like 40 minutes away. And I think it's similar for you, wasn't it, Gareth? It was so heavy bringing everything to school.
Yeah. I remember playing, and I was like, I would purposely, again, going to the budget thing, I would be like, I'm purposely building my army around plastics, because A, it's so much cheaper, and B, the walk from my house to school was like 1.25 miles, but it's one of those walks where you've got to, it's not like it's not like, oh, you just go in a straight line and you're there in like 30 minutes, 35 minutes. It's like, no, you've got to go down this long road and then turn down another long road. Like, it's not as the crow flies, sadly. And I remember the day when it was like, oh, we'll do was it 3 or 4? Because was it me, you, Simon McMinnis, and we used to play John Heap from time to time. And I just was like, when I always used to try and barter people down to like 1,000 or 1,500 points. I always tried to barter people down, because I was like, in school I'd have probably like my 40k stuff, and then I'd also probably have rugby that day, or some form of rugby training. So it's like I've got like all my stuff for the day for 6 hours of school. I've got my rugby kit. I've got for after I've finished whatever rugby related task I've got. I was playing Games Workshop, and it was like, I'm just tired now. I want to roll some dice, try and make my maths and my life as easy as possible, and hopefully pray that whoever I'm playing against isn't ready for just constant las cannon spam or whatever. Although I always found with Games Workshop games, when Necromunda was released, like my switch from 40k to Necromunda was like instant, just like straight in on that.
Yeah.
I very much enjoy that skirmish game scenario.
From my perspective, about the games and carrying them everywhere, you are completely right. Compared to what you probably had to suffer, I had significantly more plastic models in my carry case, I can assure you.
I'm sure.
But also distinctly remember that I was like 11, 12, 13, and where I used to live, there wasn't really a Games Workshop nearby. So I had to get a bus with the carry case to Bury or to Manchester Centre, which is where I used to live, in order to play Games Workshop. And now that was murder. That was murder for me. My shoulder would be like, oh, and I was 11 or 12, and so this big carry case would always be scraping the floor. But I also had significantly fewer pewter models. It was like, from a high L perspective, I had the White Lions and the Rangers and everything else, and the champions, so to speak, and everything else was plastic.
Before we move on to the next topic, can we just get like a verdict on how we feel about the Heroquest announcement? Whether or not it's disappointment, outraged, or maybe room for improvement, perhaps, if we're being generous.
I think if we're doing this, like, we'll save you to last, John, because I think this is definitely your topic and definitely a scenario where your opinions are... I may start if I'm going to be rude, because this is really my first take on it. But as soon as I heard the parties involved, and obviously, as you'll have guessed, I've got affiliations to Hasbro due to my choice of lifestyle. I wasn't surprised at all. And at the minute, they're desperate just to get money in, because I know they cancelled. I know they did like the Transformers TCG, which in the middle of the COVID, they were just like, "Oh, we're just going to abandon it now because we can't sell any more product on it," and it wasn't doing very well.
Yeah.
And they're doing that go to the classics kind of thing, because there's a lot of D&D supplements been released during COVID, or it feels like that. Maybe
there's not been loads. I can jump in on that one.
Yeah, it just feels like it's definitely being more heavily advertised. Perhaps and I think they're trying to go into that. They're trying to encourage that stay-at-home party game thing, because that's what people in many countries are kind of being told, depending on the individuals you talk to.
Well, I can kind of finish off what Gareth just mentioned there and about the D&D, and then I'll give my opinion on the Heroquest. D&D has only come up with two. They came up with Mythic Odyssey of Theros, which is, as you might be able to guess, it's Hasbro, and it's also directly related to a variety of worlds, the Magic the Gathering being the key one, and also the Explorer's Guide to Wildmount, which was Critical Role affiliated. So those are the two main that have come out.
Is it Rime of Icedale?
The Rime of Icedale has just come out, but I think it's just been officially released.
The releasing, is it Tasha's Cauldron of Everything?
Yeah.
Oh, it's a Star Trek tie-in.
No, it's not. No.
Tasha is actually Tasha of Tasha's Vicious Mockery fame.
Tasha's Hideous Laughter. They're actually spell names, yeah. But that actually falls directly in line, Gareth, because they're moving towards this 4 books or 4 supplements a year.
Yeah.
And so that will bring up to the 4 in the year. So Tasha's Hideous Laughter, Tasha's Cauldron will be released in Q4, having Mythic Odyssey in Q1, Explorer's Guide to Wildmount Q2.
I will admit that Tasha's has me excited, but
yeah, it's got lots of spells in it. I can't wait for that. But just to bring it back round, they are looking for more online playing, and so they've also used D&D Beyond a lot recently, as you'll have seen. They've been advertising that a bunch because they've introduced dice rolling in it inside it, and also
Yeah.
being able to roll ability scores, and how you can connect that with things like Roll20 and stuff like that. But Heroquest, I'm very disappointed. I'm disappointed. I'm not very disappointed, actually. I'm disappointed because there is still a chance I could get hold of a copy, rare as it may be. However, I also sneakily suspect we may still see it, but it will be a couple of years down the line. That's
And
I'm negative, but I'm hopeful.
and that's where I am upset, because they put forwards into the news cycle to the people who would be most interested in this kind of thing around the world, because that's how the internet works nowadays. This thing was coming back. That everyone was
in China.
Sorry.
Well,
we're never distributing this in China now, Gareth. Thanks a lot for that.
Yeah, well done. Anyway, so but yeah, they were obviously getting some hype. Maybe not like it got onto IGN. I don't know if you guys noticed that.
Yeah.
IGN is a big website for games and games playing for tabletop people. So it was getting some buzz around it, and then suddenly, hey, it's not for any of us. It just seems like a misstep. It seems like a mistake. I just had a quick look at Hasbro Gaming Worldwide, which has something like 30 different countries that they're representing. And hey, only one of those you can, well, technically two of those you can actually get the game in.
1.8.
Yeah.
Quebec counts for a lot. So
yeah. So it just seems like, what are they doing? It just seems. I'm disappointed. I wanted there to be. Well, one, I wanted there to be another Heroquest. Two, I wanted them to do something maybe a little bit more than what they've offered here. Some changes to more than just some of the rules and the artwork from the original, which I can't say it looks better personally. I prefer the original, but that could just be nostalgia talking. Who knows? Yeah, it's a mistake in my opinion, and just the fact that they know that they're not going to be shipping these copies in the US until the near enough the end of next year is just, I don't know. By that point, anyone who has been interested in it will have moved on to the next thing. Like saying that they're getting people interested in Heroquest again, then waiting 18 months for us to actually be able to get it, it's too late by then. All you're going to be doing from their perspective is making us upset and then not want to give them the money. Like, it just, I don't know. It seems like a PR disaster to me. And
that's been a lot of Hasbro's, for this, they're trying to create this false limited edition feel, where it's like, oh, we'll print to demand, but you only have so long to make your demands.
I can completely understand that point of view. Like, get the buzz and everybody who is interested, because that sells the copies, and you can make off your pre-orders as many units as you need. I don't have a problem with that. Some people do that very well. Like there's a games company called Limited Run Games, and they have a pre-order thing where you go, okay, we're open pre-orders for worldwide for the next 4 weeks. Everyone gets in what they want, and they go, okay, well, it's closed now, unfortunately. You've had your time, but we're going to ship everywhere. Everyone who wanted that, we gave you plenty of opportunities to get it. There you go. It will be ready when it's ready.
This has always been a curiosity for me, like with some of the Kickstarter games, because I'm sure you two probably have this as well. So many Kickstarter tabletop games advertised to them, or I remember last year there was a game that was getting heavily focused to me on my Facebook called God Tier, and it was a sort of weird. You played on a hexagonal playmat, and you picked champions who had minions, so it was almost like tabletop League of Legends.
Yeah.
But then once I did that, and apparently it was one of those things where everybody in the dog had the same idea of trying to do like League of Legends, but the board game. And I always find this thing with Kickstarter companies, I'm kind of curious as to how the business models in the background run. Like for someone like Hasbro, who's already got like the massive production lines all up and running or available to them, I can get that. But when you see these like small companies going like, oh yeah, if you and the thing with like God tier, I think you can still find it, and it's tier as in crying, not as in like of a cake. And they were like, oh, if you buy the game for $100, you get this and 4 factions of your choice. But if then they were creating like a supplement faction like every 2 weeks, and you could spend probably like $400 for, and like if the minis were like what they were showing us in the photos were like a true likeness of what you got, the minis were insanely good. And part of me was like, I just have them for like any fantasy style tabletop game, or some of them like I could imagine in a Corn Army in 40k, or
Yeah.
there's loads of really cool stuff.
I mean,
And
go on. Sorry.
I was just going to say, and it's like a weird fascination, like a little bit like I was saying the other week, like Burn Bright that's made by Roll20. I had like this weird obsessive fascination to find out like what the hell, like how does this work and how does it come together? And I can understand John's disappointment because he's really like I don't think I can say how big of a fan John is of Heroquest. Because I remember when we started
watched
doing D&D.
the Bardic broadcast video on YouTube about how great everything that's great about HeroQuest. Probably about once a week, because that video encapsulates everything that is good about my childhood and memories of my dad. With my dad. My dad isn't dead. I take that back.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
We can easily take that as a nice segue anyway from one big company, big gaming company,
yes,
to another that is making a massive foray into gaming. Considering that it is a software company by and large, Microsoft has bought Bethesda Studios.
Yes.
Yes, how did Bethesda feel about this? Because they might actually have to finish a game before releasing it.
Yeah. Can you imagine if Microsoft Game Studios, as it's now known, finds a studio for every bug found before release? That's what I saw.
Oh yeah.
But then again, it's also Microsoft who make Windows, and let's look at their sort of
hand in hand.
Their update schedule.
I can imagine the top tier guys who are like, hey, the deal went through, and everyone's like, oh, congratulations, guys, on a job well done. Meanwhile, down in the depths of the company, the Q&A department's just like, oh no, what have they done?
Yeah, I know. Well, so just to clarify as well, it is actually they purchased ZeniMax Media, which has multiple entities underneath it, including Bethesda software, ID software, the ZeniMax Studios, a few other mini game subsidiaries, as well as, and this is potentially quite important, the Asian company that was set up for ZeniMax. So They get another foothold, basically. And for those of you that aren't aware, Bethesda makes a variety of games, including, but not limited to, Skyrim. The entire Skyrim series. Yep.
Elder Scrolls, I think, is the term you want, not Skyrim.
Yeah, sorry, Elder Scrolls.
Yeah.
But the reason I say that is because the last 2 games have been called. Oh no, it's not called Skyrim. It's called Elder Scrolls
Skyrim's
Online,
been released on like every single console going for the past like 2.5 generations.
And then it's also had limited editions and like Game of the Year editions released. Yeah, no. And Fallout is another big one that
Bethesda
Microsoft
themselves actually acquired that like what was it, like 10-15 years ago, so they're not the original purveyors of that particular franchise, but
they
they're
definitely
the one.
they owned the IP,
but they brought it to the mainstream.
Yes, 100%. Yeah,
because like original Fortnite was like an isometric kind of game. Not Fortnite.
Fallout. Yeah.
You can tell that I've got my son at the moment.
And Quake. Do we all remember Quake?
Doom.
Oh man.
Wolfenstein.
Jesus. Let's have a look. Oldest first. I'm gonna go from oldest first. So
no, not Duke Nukem, Gareth. That's owned by THQ, I think.
Yeah.
Now it is anyway.
Going through that whole thing. All I've got memories of getting into trouble at sixth form for, was it Craig put Doom onto the school server?
I thought it was Duke 3D.
No, he started with Doom, and then he put Duke Nukem 3D on.
Yeah, and then our head teacher came into the room and went, "What the hell is this?"
Rage is in there as well. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm still looking at games. I mean, so these are all now owned by Microsoft. And me and John were discussing this as a preamble to this podcast, and we were like, I wonder what's going to happen. I had a look at what else Microsoft Studios now owns, and they own a lot.
Turns out they've been doing this for quite a while, acquiring studios. It was always the rumor that they were going to get somebody big, and for a long time it was people like Capcom, because they were struggling. Nobody ever talked about Bethesda because it was a company doing well for itself. It wasn't ever struggling, so nobody ever thought it would be this particular company. But the word is that some of the higher ups in that company just thought this is the time to cash out. So
$7.5 billion allegedly is being reported for the game company. Can you imagine 10 years ago if someone said to you that a game company is going to be worth billions of dollars?
Or 2 Star Wars companies.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. We'll jump off exactly that, which is another game studio that Microsoft bought that is possibly one of the most popular games around, especially for its time, 2014. It was purchased in 2016 or 2017, I think, which was Minecraft and Mojang Studios.
Yes.
$2.5 billion. I mean, I bet Marcus Persson Notch was just like, oh, yes, take it. Because, I mean, it made him a billionaire overnight. He was on the Forbes list the next day.
I would feel that like Microsoft have actually done quite well with that IP as well, though. Like
that's what I was just about to say. Yeah,
because you hear a lot of stories about particular companies like the EAs and the Ubisofts and what have you, like taking these companies and actually not doing very much with them, or in EA's case, infamously shutting them down years after actually acquiring them and doing nothing with them.
And they spent years in production of a game and then they shut it down, and everyone. And anyway, I'm not going to go into it.
It's not what we're here for today.
Yeah, no. We're here to discuss mainly this. But 100% true. Like the Minecraft, I actually looked, and there has been a number of updates. I'm going to just count them: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pretty decent content updates for Minecraft since they purchased it. So it has not just been sat on a shelf. And then they also went mobile with it. They put it on some mobile platforms where Mojang wouldn't have been able to do that.
No, they also expanded what the actual Minecraft universe was as well, didn't they? They've brought out like separate games that were spin-offs and different kinds of game, So they have been doing things with it. So I don't want to speak too early, but I feel like it's actually a good get for Microsoft, obviously, but I think it's a good deal for everyone that's actually interested in those franchises as well. I don't think that they're just going to sit there and do nothing with them. So it also there's other companies that are associated with Bethesda that are on the smaller side. I can't remember off the top of my head, but some of them like weren't in too good a place. So maybe hopefully this sort of stability from being acquired by Microsoft, such a big company that actually has precedence for actually giving their companies space to do what they want, it could actually be a really good thing.
Well, it seems like they're giving them development backing, which is like super important. And like Minecraft is just a weird game for me. It's just that game that just doesn't want to go away. You just like, how can a game that looks purposely so dated and like who knew that digitizing Lego would be more popular than Lego when they digitized Lego poorly?
I have actually got some stats for you. So there is 200 million copies sold across all platforms as of right now of
I own
Minecraft.
about 6 of them.
Yeah, I own at least 2, and they still have.
Every time my son got a new console, thanks to a grandparent,
Does it do the Minecraft?
Yeah.
Minecraft, yay! But 126 million monthly active users.
Yeah.
As of this year, that's an up-to-date stat. So that's Minecraft alone. So if we're looking at Bethesda and Microsoft, I mean,
Do you want to talk about how this affects the Game Pass scenario as well? Because that is a big part of it. So
Yeah.
one of the things that they've mentioned like during this acquisition is that everything that not everything, but a lot of the things that are actually involved in Bethesda games will be going over to Game Pass, which before this was already a really, really good deal for everybody who was involved in it. It just got even better. So anyone who has access to Game Pass and isn't taking advantage of it, I think it's quite foolish, to be quite honest.
Yeah, and directly related to the Games Pass, it was only announced just before the Bethesda takeover that EA Play is coming to Games Pass.
Yes, them too. Like
it's just this Xbox Games Pass is going to be like the go-to thing. I think. I mean, I used to be an Xbox player. I'm not anymore, but it's Microsoft, and my machine is Microsoft.
Yeah, you have a Windows machine. Like
exactly.
I don't think I'll be buying either a PS5 or the new Xbox because I have this PC that we're using right now, and I'll have access to most of the things that they'll be talking about. Okay, they might not be day and date with the console releases because they need to give something to those people, but I will eventually have access to everything that they have. I just think it's a really good deal, and I wonder actually how much of this is actually to do with the fact that Halo got pushed from the release of the new Xbox. I call it the new Xbox because I always forget what the actual title of it is. I want to call it Xbox Series X, but I keep thinking that that's the previous model. A little thing that came up, by the way, when the pre-order happened for the new Xbox on the American Amazon site, the sales of the previous model that has a very similar name of it went up 400% because people were misordering them, thinking that they were the new Xbox.
You'd think that Microsoft might need to work on this marketing technique they've got for naming the Xbox family.
Yeah. I mean, sorry. Go on.
It's like when the Xbox One came out, it's like loads of people petitioned that we refer to it as the Xbone.
Yeah.
XB1.
I saw a post on Facebook that was like, compared to Xbox or compared to Microsoft, the person who created the name for the PlayStation should be given a raise because it has been the PS1, the PS2, the PS2 Slim, the PS3, PS4, PS5. It is so simple.
Yep.
You know where you're getting with it.
I feel upset in this, Dan, because there was also
I'm ignoring the
PS1
handhelds.
Slim.
No, I'm ignoring
those.
There
was a PS1 Slim. There was a PS3 Slim, a PS4 Slim. So if you were going to mention PS2 Slim, I feel that you should have mentioned all the other subcategories.
I'll be honest. I am an Xbox player. I used to own a PS2 Slim. That was the extent. So I knew. I was like, well, there's a PS1, PS2, and a PS2 Slim because I used to own it. PS3, PS4, PS5, and I'm ignoring the handhelds.
In fact, all of my PlayStation consoles, with the exception, I had full fat PlayStation 2, but PlayStation 4 next to me is a Slim, and my PS3 was a Slim, just because of like the living conditions that I had at the time.
Yeah.
Right,
were very small.
This gives you an idea of how complicated it was, though, right? I got into the situation during the lockdown of wanting to get some old consoles and fixing them because they were broken, and I bought this job lot of consoles, and one of them was.
In no way did they slow down a D&D session for about an hour as well.
I don't know what you're talking about. Besides which, so I got these consoles, and one of them was an original Xbox. You know, the big one, the big daddy, the black monolith type behemoth that weighed a lot. It's the first time I've actually seen one, and it weighed like 10 pounds. It's enormous. So I got that, and I found that there was actually nothing wrong with it. So I went to eBay to try and sell it, and trying to put in the actual technical details to actually get that it's an actual original Xbox. Brackets original, brackets the year it was made, because actually trying to get it to the actual section that I want it to be in is more complicated than it really needs to be. You know, as much as I'm like thinking that this Bethesda deal is a really good get for Microsoft, they kind of needed to, because they are so far behind Sony in every single other type of metric that's important to the console war, if you still want to call it that. Because it's more like a console democracy at this point, because everyone goes, okay, it's coming to us for now. Starshape, PC in 6 months' time, the other console later on, when we decide it'll make us money.
On a side note, though, Sony will always go, so you like Spider-Man, do you?
Yes, yeah, that's yeah. Venom. Let's throw some Venom in there. Why not?
We saw that you liked that Into the Spider-Verse movie. We've got you, bro. New game.
Two coming.
Yep, exactly. I mean, to be fair, like looking at Microsoft, I mean, I'm still in the Xbox Game Studios right now. Let's talk about the original Xbox for a second, just a very second. Halo.
Yes.
So, Bungie was created for Halo, more or less solely for Xbox at the time. It was the game. It was created, designed, and then Microsoft very quickly after the initial creation went, yeah, we'll put you under our company now, under the Xbox Game Studios as it was, and then Bungie's now handed over the IP. And then separated again. Yeah. So it does make me think, they've done Destiny. They've done Destiny with Activision. I don't know what it'll mean for the future, honestly.
I feel like
trying to
go on, Gareth. All right. Well, from what I understand, having separated from Activision actually gave Bungie the opportunity to do what they want. And their fans wanted them to be doing what they're doing right now, which is a more like live game, pay what you want sort of model, which is what most games of this type seem to be going towards anyway. But Activision's kind of, from what I understand, from my very armchair scenario point of view, is that Activision's kind of was pretty much chaining them down to the old model, which is the Call of Duty model of,
release a game every year or else.
Yeah, pretty much. And Bungie couldn't do that. Hence why they separated.
Call of Duty now itself has tried to be like the Fortnite model. Because they've got, is it Warzone? I don't know what their version is, but it's basically Warzone, it's like, Call of Duty, Fortnite.
I wouldn't call it Fortnite if I'm honest. I'd just say Battle Royale because Fortnite has building elements. But that's just my take.
Yeah.
So it's like like Activision have gone towards like, oh well, if you can't beat them, join them mythology. And Call of Duty has like such a fanatic. Like John used to do Call of Duty videos back in the day.
Back in the day, yes. When I had reflexes.
I remember John sending me a video that he posted on YouTube. Was it riot shields and knives only?
Yes.
And the other team realised that John's team weren't taking it very seriously, so they swapped their loadout to something else very silly, and I can't remember what it was.
It was basically just a game full of people with riot shields and knives and throwing knives. And, it's what you do on a weekend when you haven't got much else to do and you've played the game for an entire year. It gets a bit silly. But it was lots of fun. Back when I could actually, turn and do stuff within, below a second.
Now you've got a mouse, you just increase the DPI, right? Oh, God.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, John, you're getting older.
I know. I will hide the greys, sorry. For those of you watching the video. Yes.
Why I'm wearing a hat.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, Gareth. So I mean, I think it's going to be a positive thing. Just very quickly, something I didn't even realize. Obviously, if you don't know, the Microsoft Game Studios, as it now is, they own the rights to Gears of War.
Yes, they have done for quite well, actually.
Do you remember who they bought it from?
Epic
Games.
Yeah.
I was like, I never realized that the two were connected at all.
I mean, Epic have gone on to a few decent things since
they've done all right for themselves.
They've done all right.
Yeah, they're not suffering, that's for sure.
But then also,
I just feel like I'm suffering due to Epic Games.
your bank balances. Those V-Bucks. But just very quickly, I mean, some other things. They own the Forza Motorsport.
Yes.
They now own the Age of Empires.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the franchise for that. Yeah, the State of Decay, stuff like that. And some of the more indie quote unquote games that came out. So the Sea of Thieves. Do you remember the game
Well,
that
they
came
own
with every
Rare,
single
don't they?
Xbox? To begin
They
with?
own Rare, and that was a Rare product.
Yeah, they own Rare. Yeah.
That
do we all
game was
remember?
unnecessarily complicated at points. Sea of Thieves.
I never played it,
Yeah.
but it seemed like it was fun for what it was. You could
Yeah.
get drunk and sing, I think, and that was about it.
Yeah, you could play as a bard, so you'd have been right at home, John.
Damn.
And We Happy Few. I don't know whether you've seen that being played, but that's a weird game. That
There was a lot of hype, wasn't there, when that was announced at E3, and it turned out to not be that. It was basically a vertical slice of a game that didn't exist.
Yeah. But when it was shown, definitely,
Yeah.
But yeah.
But
So
what's
I mean,
in the box? We don't go in the box.
Yeah, we don't open that box. We don't press
What's
that
behind
button.
the curtain? Just trust me.
Yeah.
Trust
It's
me.
good. Just trust us. It's good. Do you not believe us? Come on. I'm a very trusty guy. But yeah. So funnily enough, I mean, we're going to get final comments on this. But John, you mentioned that it was like a democracy for the consoles.
Yes.
And you completely forgot about the one that we're going to be talking about next.
Oh, you
It's
mean
not
Which has its own
Stadia, is it,
niche.
John?
its own niche? You mean you wouldn't perhaps be meaning Among Us, would you?
No. I was talking about the game, the game that was released at the start of lockdown on the Nintendo Switch.
Oh, you mean Animal Crossing? Sorry, yes.
Animal Crossing, yes,
I
indeed,
I misread your secret signal
The
there.
queue. It's fine. We're going to go into both, so
It's fine.
a great segue. But yeah, so we'll talk about the Animal Crossing Among Us bit that I'm quite interested in. I know I've already said this to John. I'm quite interested in it.
Yeah.
But final thoughts on Bethesda overtaking?
Being
Microsoft
taken
taking over.
It made a potentially disastrous intro into their new console interesting again, and it gave something to the console war to those people to chew on. Being a PC gamer, I'm not interested in that, to be honest, but those people who are, it gives them some ammunition to throw at those Sony boys.
Yeah. Plus new Elder Scrolls.
Yeah. See, a little takeaway for me is Bethesda now going to be the new Lionsgate studio, and are Microsoft going to force them to make a new Fable game? Because Fable fans have kicked off for forever, especially after like the damp squib that was Fable 3.
Did you not watch E3?
I saw that there was something listed to do with Fable.
So another company that Microsoft now owns.
Yeah.
Playground Games, based in Leamington Spa, actually in the great United Kingdom, are working on the next Fable game.
Yes.
So luckily, Bethesda do not have to divert all resources there. Thank the Lord.
That's what you think, but I reckon it's all just a cover story now.
It could well be.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm going to start the Bethesda Fable conspiracy theories now.
The only thing they had to release for that, by the way, was just the CGI trailer with a farting frog or something like that. It was next to nothing. So with their title, so I mean, it didn't actually show anything. So I mean, they could bring in some people from those other companies, but I don't imagine how well that might work. Bringing in talent from other companies doesn't always make success. So
I just have the mental image of Bill Gates now in a red hat with "Make Fable Great Again."
Oh
no. I don't after last night. We can't talk about that.
I've not seen it.
Moving on. Dan,
let's move on to the next topic, which is a little bit about the Nintendo Switch, which you completely ignored in your console debate war. It does have its own separate niche, though.
It does.
And I read an interesting thing recently, and it made me really think about it. And I want to get your guys' take. So, at the start of lockdown, Animal Crossing was released.
Mm-hmm.
Much to the delight of people, to the fact that Switches were sold out everywhere.
Yes.
That was my generic response to Animal Crossing.
Shrug. Yeah.
People like it, but the idea is that, especially at the start of lockdown, people were spending hours, hundreds of hours, thousands of hours, creating houses, inviting people around, making sure that Tom Nook was paid his dues on time.
What, mate? It's because we couldn't do it in reality.
Well, yeah.
I could be successful.
It fit the niche. It fit the niche at the time. Yeah.
Let me live my successful life, even if it's virtual only.
Exactly, yeah.
Sell apples. Sell apples.
Yeah. Quick, I've got to sell these quick. I owe Tom Nook money. No. So that was at the start of lockdown, and everything was really nice. Do you remember everyone was on Facebook saying, "Oh, I've got this game," especially for my generation. I'm sure you'll have friends as well, and seeing it on Twitter. Oh, share your friend codes and stuff like that. I'll visit your island.
Yeah.
And we're now close to the end of lockdown, we hope, although we're just starting to go back down into it. So as at time of recording, it is the 30th of September, and we may all be locked down again by Christmas, but that's
all I've got in my head is
ongoing.
when just before we go, and I've got the Mitchell and Webb thing with after the event, stay in your homes.
Stay in your homes. Yeah. But now we're in theory we were towards the end, but we've definitely progressed through this lockdown. And the latest, well, there's actually another game that came in between that I want to just bring up as well, because it shows the actual link. So we had a game where it was a free for all, and you wanted to win all the time to the point where you'd push people off ledges and things like that.
So Fall Guys.
Yeah.
So we made a, it's a nice looking game with great houses and great, politeness, to one where, okay, you were trying to win. It was a little less polite, but there was sometimes team games.
Yeah.
And now we've developed to the point where the most fun that a person can have is lying, stabbing people in the back, and throwing them out of airlocks in Among Us.
I think there's a song title, and is it "Lying is the most fun a woman can have without taking her clothes off" by Fall Out Boy.
It's in brackets, so without taking her clothes off. I just want to point out.
But yeah, Fall Guys I found really weird because it was like loads of people were like, "Oh, it's a free game," and it was a £20 game, but it was free with Game Pass. And
Yeah,
if you
something
paid
like
for
that, yeah.
PlayStation Plus or Network, whatever it's called. And I was like, why are people so excited for Battle Royale Mario Party?
Yeah.
And I was just there, and like all the content creators that my son watches who do like Fortnite and Minecraft, and they were all like, "Oh, come and check this out." And I was like, people hate Mario Party for a reason.
I was just going to say, you're kind of upselling Mario Party, though.
Yeah. Not many people play that, but they play Fall Guys instead. That's why.
Yeah, but if you play Mario Party with any number of AI, you're going to be so close 95% time of winning, and then magically they stop on a thing. It's like, oh yeah, there's a dice that's a 3, which takes me to the finish. Bye, suckers. And that's what Fall Guys is. Like, Fall Guys is weird in the fact that one of its end games is stolen from Minecraft because it's the lava drop game.
Oh yeah.
Like
it's called Spleef, but yeah, I don't know what it's called in game. It's called
like
you keep going, I'll think of it.
Yeah, I think it's called like Lava Drop if you play, because it used to be called Spleef when it was done independently, and then it got like when you play it on Minecraft, all the version like the mini games have their own names and servers. But I was just like, okay, so someone's gone, we're going to take people's favorite mini games from other games, and we're going to have these weird looking characters in it. And I almost feel like Fall Guys has almost been forgotten already. Or maybe that's just me, because like a lot of content creators are like, oh, it's such a great game, and then it just fell off the face of the planet. But to link into what Dan said, a game that was made 2 years ago and nobody cared about in Among Us, as the amount, like, even Ninja from Fortnite has basically changed his channel to being on YouTube playing Among Us with other Fortnite YouTubers. And
nobody could see it coming, though.
I think. Sorry?
Nobody could see it coming. Like, it's a deception type game. Deception type games have been going for absolutely ages.
So this is what I was trying to say in the WhatsApp, and because of how the last week's gone, whenever I see Among Us, it makes me think of a game that I used to play at a thing called Woodcraft Folk, which was like a sort of like scuffed version of the Scouts. And it was the nearest thing for me to do when I was a kid. And we used to play a game called Wink Murder, and you'd have one kid sent out of the room who was the detective, and then you'd all be sat in a circle with the other kids in the group, and we played it at school as well. And the teacher would pick a murderer, and you'd have to see how many people via the process of just winking you could kill. And then I remember, like, as we got a little bit older, we introduced the teacher, and so even us, we suggested, like, oh, how about like a variant rule where you have maybe two, you get to pick, the murderer gets to pick an accomplice, or you've got to try and work it all out. And Among Us just makes me really think of that, of playing Wink Murder as a child,
Yeah.
but also with like some Cluedo detective-y elements. And
Yeah.
I just love, maybe it's I just love the psychology that people try to apply to it.
I think it's a sign of the
And you
times,
can
though.
really, sorry.
I think it's a sign of the times, because everybody is stuck inside. They want something to do. They want a social thing to do, and that just plays into these sort of wants and needs that people have, like to have social interaction with other people that, okay, for the most part is deception based, but it gives people a thing to be excited for, like that is easily accessible as well. Like on Steam it's $3.99, I think, in pounds. Anyone can play it.
Due to the explosion of popularity, the company that made it went, oh, we're going to do Among Us 2 to try and cash in on it. And then what they did about a week later, that announcement was actually, we're going to shelve the development because there's still bugs in the game. So we'll fix all the bugs. And I think they were like, oh, we're going to be more open to suggestion on what people want fixing and adjusting.
Yeah. They've come out and said, we're going to do an entire new level for you, because currently there's 3 levels or 4 levels in there. We're going to do another one.
3.
But it's worth pointing out, we keep saying it's one person.
It's one guy. Yeah.
Is it one guy?
It's one guy.
Yeah.
Just
I think doing a sequel would be suicidal as well. Like it would separate the player base. So it's smart of that guy.
Someone's definitely turned around to him and said, "Don't do a sequel."
Yeah.
Just stay on this one. Just milk it. Milk it.
Yeah.
$3.99 each as well. Like, he's going to do a lot of milking, but it's
you
on
can
his
get it
own.
on the Android store, and I don't know if you can get it on iOS. But when I went on to update Dual Links for my phone the other day, when it was like the new world update is here, Among Us was advertised to me as a game I might be interested in as a game on my phone.
It's on the iStore.
Yeah, it's on the Apple Store. Yeah. In the slot,
it's
the same
people.
people
On there. Yeah.
And it's just honestly crazy how, and so just to carry on what John said as well, it is a deception-based social deduction game.
Yeah.
Social deduction games have always been trying to find a niche. They're always in board games. There is video games as well. But this one, for the simplicity of it, but also the way that the mechanics work, is incredible. I love this game. I am playing this regularly. I played it literally yesterday.
At all, but I'm so desperate to.
I would like to as well.
It's also at the moment looking at my life and my new work schedule / now my son's new training schedule, and going somewhere.
There is a slot.
I may have some free time.
Yeah.
There may be a 20-minute slot here. Maybe I may eat then. I'm not sure.
But funnily enough, actually, that this isn't the first time a deception type game has become popular. On YouTube or basic social media. There was a game a couple of years ago, I don't know if you guys know it, called The Ship Murder Party. And it was played by probably who was one of the biggest social media people, CNanners, did a couple of games of this particular type. And it's a very similar sort of thing. It was done in a 3D based thing rather than the simplistic 2D isometric view that you have now for Among Us, but it was a little bit too complicated. I could see why that failed and this worked, because this is a lot simpler. It looks easy to get into because it is, whereas this ship game, Murder Party, which it's on Steam and you can get it for nothing. It had a lot of the similar types of gameplay and what have you, but there was more to it. It was more complicated, and it put people off, because I actually tried to get into that game, and you find a lot of people would just like, it's too complicated, so they got bored, so they would just flaunt it and they would just murder each other for no particular reason.
Yeah.
Whereas this, obviously, there's just enough to keep people engaged, but not so much that it turns people off because I can't be bothered. It's too much.
You can do a round of Among Us in like 10-15 minutes.
Not even that. I mean, if like I mean, and this is the other thing as well. If someone's played or watched a lot of hours, they know a lot of things about the game. So, for instance, I was in a game yesterday where we were in the cafeteria of one of the ship, and I basically went over to do my task, and the imposter came over, went to do the task as well. I left, and he left seconds after me, and he'd only been there for a couple of seconds, and so I literally just went, "I'm so sorry." So I walked over to the table, emergency meeting. "I'm sorry, but I happen to know that task takes longer than you just did it in." Well, no, actually, I even worded it. I said, "What task did you just do then?" "Oh, he said, "Oh, I did the wiring." I went, "Not that one. You weren't doing the wiring there." He went, "Oh no, you're right. It was the upload one." And I went, "It was the download one, but I mean, you're getting there. You're slowly getting there." And I felt so sorry, but it ended it in a minute. It was done in a minute.
Yeah.
Remind me not to play with Dan. He's that guy.
I have, unfortunately. I have that guy.
Well, one of the guys Oscar was watching, and they were doing Among Us. Basically, he sussed out one of the players in the game was the imposter because he said, "Oh, I was doing the such and such task," and he went, "But I don't have that in the settings, so how could you have been doing it?" Because you can put common tasks in and stuff.
Yeah.
And he said like the common task that you said you were doing wasn't.
No one else has got it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not in the task list for the game, so no one can have it.
It is deduction.
Yeah,
it's as simple as that. You know,
and that's one of its strengths as well, is that it's nuanced enough that people who play the game more will have more experience and be able to do the game better.
Yeah,
I quite enjoy a YouTuber called Gabby Sparks, and she usually does Magic the Gathering content, but she's been playing Among Us. But she's also been streaming it, so she like turns mic in and out of the Discord chat.
Yeah.
And when she's imposter, it's quite funny because she has I call it the suspicious song, and she's like, "We got it, chat." And then she's like, "Oh, okay, I've got to do this." And she's like, "Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious. Don't be suspicious."
It's going to be a great game to stream as well. I've not streamed it yet because I've got to find a group who don't mind me putting them all online, basically. But it's like having that Discord overlay, and this is another great thing. The Discord overlay works with it, so you just put in the Discord overlay. You can see where people are talking, and like as long as you're muted, you're making sure you're muted. It's kind of like you could be realistic, and if you're the imposter, Jesus Christ, chats are going to go wild for it.
Yeah,
you know, you get a really good kill, and you manage to vent out, you know, from lights to security on a certain.
Well, that's one of the bugs that apparently someone said needs to be fixed because in one of the maps, if you follow people and you can sort of see into rooms, but they're dark sometimes. But apparently the vent animation still can be seen.
Yeah. So the vent animation is shown, but not the color of the person jumping in, which is, I mean, to be fair, it's a bug he's going to work on. The inner sloth is going to work on. I'm not worried.
People have been like going like, "Oh, I'm on my own now, and no one's there," and people are purposely stood at just the right distance on certain rooms so they can see the vent, and it's like you were the only person in there, so because only the imposter can use the vents, can't they?
Yeah.
I will say that is one of the things that worries me about playing the game or wanting to play the game and haven't done until now. Am I too late? That's one of the things that I'm kind of worried about, because obviously I don't have the knowledge that others who have played the game so far have, and I haven't had that experience. Am I too late to
I think it'd be fine. Like you joined me and Becky in playing Settlers in Catan, and you were like, "I'm going to try like an experiment to see what would happen," and you won that game.
Oh, that's because you guys are scrubs, though.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely was. I basically discovered the game on the Monday, and me and Becky played it. Although, if you play Settlers of Catan online through their website, there is definitely a bias on the dice rolls.
Is there?
I don't know if you remember. We played it, and the RNG, we played several games, and one dice roll would always be statistically happening, and you always noticed it was always one of the settlements that the AI had.
Yeah.
I think it was like 36 rolls have been made, and like 14 of them would be an 8, because you sevens are like a neutral because of the commonality of rolling it, and it'd be an 8, and then you'd realize, because you need 4 players for Catan Online, and so we used to have an AI, and it used to always land on an AI settlement, and it'd be like all the other dice rolls would be a fairly even, like 7, 8, or 9 split, and then there'd be one of them that'd be like in the high teens, nearly 20s.
Yeah, that is. I mean, I know a lot of people. This is the problem, by the way, guys. Anyone who is listening, we did often just go off on tangents like this, but that is one of the problems with Roll20 that people suspect.
Yeah,
They say it can't be true random.
Yeah.
Now, I've not experienced it negatively. I mean, anyone who has ever played any role-playing game knows that you can roll really bad dice repeatedly, and you can roll really good ones repeatedly. It's just the look of the dice roll, essentially. But yeah,
I think some psychology goes along with that, though. The fact that it is out of your control because it is an algorithm that's doing it will have a negative bias on how people think about it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like Hasbro gets stick for
here we go.
Arena.
Shh.
They get stick for Magic Arena because they've even admitted that the shuffling device, if your hand only has one land in it the first time, land is a resource that you need to play your cards for people who don't play Magic the Gathering. Your second hand, when you have to mulligan from 7 down to 6, will always give you 2 to 3 lands the second time. And they admitted an array of things that they did to try and make it so that it was more playable from the beginning, opposed to like when you're shuffling the cards and separating your cards, and you should have more natural variants.
That does seem like that should be a no thing. That shouldn't be done, if I'm honest.
But they admit they did it because they were trying to make it so Magic the Gathering has, you draw 7 cards at the beginning of the game, but you can choose to mulligan, but you mulligan down to 6. So what you do is you draw your cards, you draw your 7 cards, and then you put one of them to the bottom of the deck if you choose to keep it, and then you keep doing that until, if you want, you can mulligan down to 0 cards in hand, and just pray that your top deck's really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair,
they manipulated the shuffling system to try and make it so people could have a 7-card hand more often.
Yeah. Well, funnily enough, to be talking about things like that, and just to summarise back to what John said, first off, if you haven't already, watch some Among Us. It'll be one of the easiest ways because the games are quick. You can watch a game like, I mean, I was watching, although I've actually been watching a lot of Critical Role recently. That's just not an ad or anything like that. I just really like it. But an Among Us game lasts on average, like I said, 10 minutes, if that.
Yeah.
And the 10 minutes is mostly taken up by them talking in emergency meetings.
I mean, the big thing as well online with, sorry to interrupt you, Dan, with Among Us is it's a great content thing because of people's reactions. And, you know, that's what people enjoy. It's like when you play a party game, or you've got, when we were allowed house parties and you go and you play a game like this, and like you will experience in D&D where it's like, oh, you have like a really good roll and you have a great character moment from it, or you have a terrible roll and you get a great character moment for it, but for dramatically worse things. And then sometimes if it's like you roll, I mean, I've been DMing for you guys for John and Becky for like 2 years nearly now.
Yeah.
And then Dan joined us later on, and it's like there's been points where, John, for example, fails a roll, but Becky's character Orla was there, and then it becomes a party experience because you can talk.
Speaking of a particular experience, something that we still talk about in the first game that we did together with a different DM, Gareth giving me the middle finger because he already knows what we're going to be talking about. Social aspects of games are the best part of those games. Those are the parts that you remember. And in this particular part, Gareth was low on health. His character was in dire need of some assistance, and I wasn't next to him. So what I did was I used my brains and my dexterity, and I threw a very expensive I'd just like to preface that. A very expensive health potion, and Gareth needed to make a roll to catch it. Now, obviously,
Hey guys, I can see where this one's going.
I
have heard this story before, however, so...
And unfortunately, Gareth didn't quite make the roll, and the potion
With my
became...
negative through dexterity.
I mean, I'm helping. You were not helping yourself, unfortunately, and the potion became a puddle on the floor. And we still talk about that to this day, because
what I really like is
Gareth mistakenly thinks that it's my fault for throwing the potion. But
So,
of course,
in
as
this, the
any
DM
normal
laughed.
person who has brain cells and is, thinking on a more than neutron-based life form, would be quite, agreeable in thinking that Gareth is at fault here for not making...
Round 2, Gareth, your start.
Okay, so first of all, when we played this, our DM was American and we had a random Canadian guy filling in.
Yes.
When John threw the item, the Canadian player, a gentleman who went by the name of Smoke in his username, he was a very experienced D&D player. And as soon as John threw the potion, he just gasped in absolute shock and horror at what John chose to do. And then when I dropped it, he just went, "John, why would you do that?" to John repeatedly. And then it became like, we laugh about it now. And John's even created like the Star-Lord meme.
Yeah, of him dropping the Infinity Stone.
Yeah. And it was like Smoke, and even Seraph was like, "Why would you?" Well, like John went, "Oh, I want to preference this with it was an expensive potion." If you were like, "I own an expensive, delicate item in my household," I wouldn't go, "I'm going to pass this to my son by throwing it 20 feet across a room."
Giving it that quarterback spiral as it was leaving my hand. But
let's play catch.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the things, the very major things that we remember about that is that social interaction that we had. That's why Among Us is so popular, because it has those social interactions. If I can just do one more aside before we end, that's why people who play League of Legends still have chat. The game of League of Legends would be so much better from a psychology point of view for most people if you could not talk to the other team. But does that happen? Has that ever happened? No, because people want to chat shit. When they shit on other people, they want to tell the other team how much better they are than them. And that is a thing that is really, really exciting to people, and they want to have that experience. You don't want to be on the receiving end of it, of course, but it's one of the things that people go to that game for, to tell people how much better at the game they are.
Yep.
So social experiences are one of, if not the most important thing of online gaming now. I
mean, yeah, totally. And like with you mentioning like us going like Among Us has had an explosion as a game, which is true. Like a lot of online tabletop stuff has as well. I'm in multiple like D&D Facebook groups and stuff, and the amount of people who are like, I'm new to Dungeons and Dragons, can anyone recommend to me like an online platform, or I'm new to D&D and I'm looking for a group. I've never played before. How would you recommend doing it? And at the moment, the amount of people like use Dungeon Fog, Dungeon Draft, Wonder Draft, Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, Tabletop Simulator, and because people are craving a social interaction, but they're wanting to maybe do some stuff that before there's like it had nerd taboo to it. And I think some things like Dan's mentioned, Critical Role, have really like been a gateway into it, because there's like a lot of people who like niche things like anime and stuff who like, I'm a nerd, but I'm not that much of a nerd. And then they've heard like the voice actors that they like from TV shows who are very much involved in this, and they've gone, you know what, this is really interesting. For me, I always find there's something about Critical Role that I always find difficult to get into. Like I think I've listened to like the first episode of campaign 1 and campaign 2 multiple times, and for some reason it doesn't do it for me. But then I enjoy Penny Arcade's Acquisitions Incorporated, and they've even crossed over. They've even worked together on stuff. But it's different strokes for different folks, and I quite enjoy Jerry Hawkins, Tycho Brahe of Penny Arcade. I quite enjoy his frequent. It became a joke, like imagine a dark Walmart, or imagine in an alternate evil reality Costco or something, to the point where they branded a T-shirt that's plain black T-shirt, and in black font it says "Imagine a dark shirt."
Yeah, I'm 100% agree. And John, I don't know how much you've watched, maybe, but I think people are craving the social interaction right now. It's not the best place out there right now. I think we can all agree on that. You know, it could definitely be better. And I mean, I'm myself isolating for 2 weeks, so I had a shop delivered on Tuesday, and that's it now. I'm not leaving the house 2 weeks. Spoiler alert: I never really used to leave the house, but it's I'm trying to get a point across here. And the idea of playing D&D, I mean, I play Garrett's campaign, and then I play one every Sunday, and it alternates on the Sundays at the minute. So it's Only War, which is a Warhammer 40k version, and then there's D&D Adventures League, and I still want another campaign somewhere. Yeah. I'm craving it. So yeah, I mean, Critical Role is just filling a void at the minute for me. And I know, John, you have only played D&D once, but sorry,
I have one group.
You're only playing in one campaign currently, but
yeah.
What are you thinking? Are you craving social interaction? I suppose you're still working as well, so it's a bit different.
Yes. I haven't mentioned this before, but I am a postman. So this whole lockdown situation has made my job actually harder. It hasn't been too bad until recently, but it is getting stressful now as the inevitable time shift towards Christmas happens, and as things get busier. I can't imagine how it's going to be. It's going to be terrible. But yeah, social interaction, yes, I do crave it. And yeah, this is one of the reasons why we're doing this podcast, though. It's a good way to talk about the things that matter to us, and hopefully to other people as well. I want to have these interactions with people.
Yeah. Well, we crave it as well. That's why we talk so much together normally, and that's why we wanted to put it into a podcast.
Yeah.
But I think that
seems like a good place to end.
It does pretty neatly wrap us up insofar as what we're kind of hoping to get from this for the future. A little bit of interaction, maybe. If anyone does end up listening to this, we will be posting it where any good podcast can go. So it'll probably be Spotify. If we can get it onto iTunes, we will do. And
I'm just going to copy it onto cassette and jump at people with headphones and a Walkman.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yes, the retro method.
You're not allowed to jump at people now, honestly. That will get you arrested. Especially where you are.
Can I show them my negative COVID test result and go, it's fine, it's fine.
It's fine, honest, it's fine. Yeah, you wouldn't look like a madman there.
I mean, seems rational to me, but...
Yes, rational to you, Gareth. And only you.
Shrug.
Only you, yeah, indeed. But yeah, so that is the first episode of Roleplay Life. We're not entirely sure how the format will go over the next few weeks. It'll probably be very similar insofar as we'll have a catch-up, we'll have a few topics, but it might be maybe next week John leads, as an example, so that you don't necessarily constantly hear my dulcet tones overarching over everyone else. And then when Gareth has finally got everything sorted...
In 2025, he will lead off.
Yeah. He'll tell us all about Hasbro.
You know what? The best thing Hasbro ever did was just release Transformers toys when I was a kid, and that was the happiest moment I had with that company between the ages of about 5 and 8. I think the Action Masters series of toys is where the noticeable decline came, when they were like, here are Transformers figures.
Yeah,
they don't transform.
And that's another niche that Gareth is involved in. That we'll, you know what? I've just thought of this, and we're gonna have to part this as a future topic. Have you seen that Rooster Teeth, that is a popular brand that we might know, have been involved in the production of the new Transformers TV series on Netflix?
No, I didn't know.
Yeah,
Exactly. Honestly, new topic. We're parking it for next week because
Okay.
we are going to have to end this. We are now
Yes.
at almost 2 hours, an hour and 40 minutes.
An hour and 40 minutes. It's probably in future. It'll probably be a little bit more streamlined than this. We're waffling a little bit because it's obviously a little bit new to us.
We always waffle. Come on, John. There's no need to lie to the listeners or viewers. But yes, exactly what John said. So that's kind of it from me. So this has been Roleplay Life. So from me, bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Good night. Sweet dreams.
Au revoir. Bye now. Bye.